at genomics. And finally, we really need algorithms that can crunch in all of this data to give us actionable insights and to do this in a sustainable way. So we bring in companies that address these pieces of the puzzle, right? So wearables, bring AI-based medical diagnosis, brain tech, and so on, genomics. And we drive these projects. So, for example, create an app so that you can, one of the biggest challenges I know in healthcare in Canada, and I'm pretty sure it's probably elsewhere in the world as well. About 40% of the population, by the way, has, on a global level, has some sort of heart disease. Maybe not very serious. Some of them are very serious. So we have a chest band. And so we replaced a Holter monitor, which is cumbersome. It's very expensive. It's a device that you get hooked onto. We've developed a fabric chest band that you can actually throw in the wash, but it can do your your ECG analysis for your heart, and it's much cheaper. It's accessible to people who are living remotely. And what happens is that if a cardiac event happens in your heart, which, like I said, about 40% of the population they get cardiac events. Some of them turn into something serious, some don't. But the key is that you want to catch these before they turn into something serious, because heart disease is really mostly preventable. So we can catch that without the user even knowing that something happened. We generate a report that goes to the doctor and tell the user as well. Telehealth then sets up an appointment if needed, and so on. So these are the type of, I know I probably have talked for too long. Sorry about that. But yeah, so these are the type of, we were working on virtual. So it's incredible to see what comes out when you bring people from different, like the right set of stakeholders. And I just want to say that it's not just the tech companies, it's not just the hospitals. We bring together also communities and academics. It's really, we're big on responsible development. Responsible development of technologies must be an important aspect of interdisciplinary and holistic collaboration as well, because you cannot have an effective solution if you don't have if you don't develop the technology responsibly. So we actually, for example, work with any community that we're developing a solution for. We bring them to be part of the solution. So we're working with the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation in British Columbia. It's one of the main nations in Canada, Indigenous nation, and they are part. So we're building a medical center for them, main hospital, not for them. See, I'm catching myself. We're actually doing it together. So they're building it. We're doing it together, and they are part of the development. They're part of the say on what does the solution look like, how can we design it together. And what's incredible is the last thing I'm going to say. So what's incredible about this is that once you do this properly, other things come out of this. So for example, this Indigenous nation, they are building a school on their land, and we're now helping design together their curriculum. We're introducing quantum computing to the kids to be taught, quantum and pictures, and other things. So I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, and that's a quite unique angle to it. And after you gave the statistics about 40% of people living globally having a certain, I started thinking. So 4 out of every 10. Interesting. We all should get our hearts checked, or maybe get that device. But I have now one question in line with, because I understand by your experience, you created Sapiens, for example, using AI to solve health challenges, your experience with the Canadian Research Council, and all of that. I see how you are able to marry AI, research, and a lot of things that are in a way very relevant to developed settings and societies. And now you talked about the globalization of your initiative and your network, so it's not just Canada. So my question to you, as it relates to countries that are not so advanced or might not be able to afford that level of healthcare or preventive measure is this. How has your experiences in leading organizations like maybe even deep tech in Canada, for example, and the Quantum Algorithm Institute, for example, influenced your approach to fostering innovative ways to bridging this gap between civilizations? That's basically it. And how is it, how are you able to employ your vast experiences in research to create market-ready technologies that are able to be accessible to even communities that are not able to afford it by other standards?
Yeah. So thanks, David. These are great points. So I'll address them one by one. So in terms of, we do want to make sure that we give back to these communities. So for example, I'll give an example of the medical center. We've designed part of the system is a digital wallet. So what we're doing is there's a ton of incredible data, and every transaction. So we will be partnering with pharmaceutical industry, with financial institutes and so on to incentivize healthy behavior. And every single time we're creating a market, what we call a market network for this system, where you can be matched with certain specialists and people who do certain procedures and so on. Every single time there is a transaction, a little bit of money goes back to the nation. And again, also the users are getting incentivized. So insurance companies are, they will, we're partnering with them to incentivize healthy behavior. Every single time we do any transaction, a little bit goes back to the community to give back. So that's what we're doing. And again, what's incredible about this, by sitting together and co-creating together, by having the communities as part of this, it's just unbelievable all the opportunities that come up to monetize things and to give back to the community, because they're part of this. They can tell you, yes, we can, this is what we have access to, and so on. So so the other thing I wanted to mention, so you talked about how do we bring market ready. Again, I'm going to go back to trying to work on getting rid of siloed developments. And I want to give an example here. So Triumph is Canada's national particle accelerator, like CERN in Switzerland. And so they're actually, we collaborate strongly with CERN. So I've been working with Triumph for many years now. And Triumph, so prior to my work with Triumph, it was difficult. So you asked, what did you learn from previous organizations? So when I worked at the Quantum Algorithms Institute, there's a quantum group at Triumph, and we collaborated together. And I remember the board of directors at the Quantum Algorithms Institute saying, these guys are particle physicists. Why are we collaborating with them? This is where we're because the Quantum Algorithms Institute was focused on commercializing quantum computing in Canada. So, but people often don't really look into this enough. Triumph develops algorithms. Yes, they're used for particle physics, but they are amazing to be applied in other areas, right? And they can be commercialized. And there's a commercialization arm to Triumph, but my board of directors at the time didn't see this, and it was and we worked on it, and of course all worked out at the end. But just having that approach, seeing that interdisciplinary approach.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
dear colleagues, one thing that has been repetitive in all their submissions has been the concept of collaboration, partnership for the goals. And with the little time left, the floor is now open to you to give your amazing responses, to ask your specific questions, and hopefully we get that done shortly. So please, by show of hands, does anyone want to make contribution or ask questions? Okay. Please.
Thank you. I want to ask a question to the lady
Sorry,
who.
we cannot hear. No, but we don't have headset. You can, or you can just talk a little loud. It's totally fine. I think. I don't know. But again.
Maybe you can come closer.
Yeah,
Come closer, and maybe you take off your headphone. Yes, now you can hear us.
I'll have to. Otherwise, others can't hear. I want to ask a question from you because you mentioned about engaging the stakeholders, the community. How do you track the data? Are you using something like blockchain to see how the data is tracked?
So this is a really good question, really good point. So indigenous communities, I don't know if everybody here heard, but data for First Nations in Canada was not dealt with properly a long time ago by the government. So it's a big issue, and it was on the news quite a while ago. And so we have the government has a reconciliation initiatives trying to fix things with the indigenous communities. So, but they've been bit by that. So data privacy is really big. So yes, we are using blockchain. For digital wallet, for example, is blockchain based on blockchain. We're using this technology to make sure that we're very careful with data privacy.
Thank you. Is there any specific blockchain doing this? I'm asking these questions because I'm a researcher. Sorry, I'm asking these questions because I'm a researcher. I'm interested to find out whether you're using a specific blockchain.
So we have different solutions, so we're agnostic. But right now, for this particular medical solution, we're exploring different. We have a few different solutions, and we're actually seeing which one will work the best. And it's funny. This is a good point because they are also involved in this evaluation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more?
I have just one.
Okay. Please go ahead.
When you were speaking, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. When you were speaking, I definitely I agree with you, David, that as they would say in Sesame Street, the world of today is collaboration. I mean, we have huge challenges in front of us, but the only way we are going to be able to solve them is if we collaborate each other. And your question about the solutions to underdeveloped or underprivileged communities, how to approach that. And I know that this is a technological panel, but I would love to give you an example of one of our members, a company in Norway that manufactures these chambers where they put the preborn babies, the immature babies, and because incubators, because in some African countries that is a huge challenge for the surviving of babies that are born ahead of time. And they were sending the machines, but after a while they were not working, and they were so technological developed with all kinds of chips and things that they really become not helpful for the community. So they put their heads to work, and they said, okay, what kind of technicians do we have in these countries? What kind of technology are they familiarized with? And they found out that it was for cars. So they took parts of cars that they were able to fix very fast. And for example, they took the wiper system of the cars and the pump for the water for the windshields. And that is the kind of products and material that they use to develop incubators that can really work all the time, can be fixed inside, and can really help the community. So sometimes, even though we have access to the best technology, we need to start lower our expectancies and really go and think how the local people think to really overcome these challenges, and then they will be able to continue developing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. So, dear colleagues, I think we're running out of time, and with a few minutes, about a minute left, I would just like to take the last comments from our speakers who just in 30 seconds say something, and we call this session to a close. Please, we'll start from you, Dr. Mohammed. Yeah,
Well, as you rightly said about what we are talking about here, it's all about collaboration, and you can see the diversity of the panel, and how we can actually combine our efforts together. So it's just a matter of taking it forward and thinking locally but acting globally. So I think that's one message from my side.
I wanted to say that I always find that it's always great to have a conversation with people around you, and it's amazing sometimes what comes of random conversations. So it's always good to chat to people that whom you work with and different teams and so on. Yeah, so.
Amazing. Thank you.
Well, I really want to thank you for coming to the IGF, because this is the portrait of what the future should be for governance. This is a multi-stakeholder forum where all the voices are heard, and this is how we need to construct the policy for these new technologies and for the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues. And just as a mode of announcement, if you're interested in ESG, there will be another interesting session in workshop room 1 that will start now and last for about an hour. With that being said, dear colleagues, thank you so much for your attention, for your participation, and for your collaboration. Thank you on behalf of the Digital Governance Authority of Saudi Arabia, and it's my pleasure to have served as your moderator today. Looking forward to future collaborations and actions. Thank you.
In the middle?
All of us? Yes.
Like as the main organizer of the session.
Yeah.
Yes, you sure? We should look in between. Then in each camera we'll look wait, just. And once, then just the speaker.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very good. Wait. Oh, another one? You were waiting. So can we just take together just the speakers
Okay, the
and
final one.
organizers? Yeah, okay, just the speaker. Can you help? No, we are just taking this.
Sorry, I've got 3 cameras, so you
Whoa,
can have a pause.
yeah, everyone else?
Okay, first let's look at this one. Okay, done. Then here. Yes. Smile. This is sustainability. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amazing panel. Thank you, Shukran. You were amazing assets for this session.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope we keep in touch.
Yes, perfect place for this session.
Perfect.
Do you want me to take a picture? You see?
Thank you so much.
Is that your LinkedIn? No, it's my country. Oh, right. Okay. So, bear with me.
considering 5 to 7 minutes, that's all right. 3 minutes. No, I think it's just 2 slides. Presentation, I'll take 5 minutes. And I prepared also speech then. Someone taking pictures.
You have a presentation?
No, I don't have.
So only you?
Yes.
Give us more chairs.
Yes.
So four speaker, right? Four speaker?
Five.
Who's the fifth? Who's the
One
fifth?
person more.
Anya.
He's joining online.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry? Yes.
Okay. But I'm co-host this.
It's everything fine. We arranged some other people to learn to mix. No, it's not. It's just was a coincidence because we had 2 sessions and this happening at the same time.
Yeah, that's not fantastic.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
I hope you should do this whatever so that they can do changing. To shut down.
Okay, just because it's different.
Have they changed it? I can ask for it. I think you can take your seats already. Let me just take this one person who is not in here.
Sorry. Your file is a PDF, not a PowerPoint.
It's PDF.
Yeah, I want a PowerPoint to present it. Do you have a PowerPoint? Or to convert it to the PowerPoint?
No, yes, I have it's from PowerPoint. The problem is that it's online and I don't know why my computer is not connecting to the internet.
I'm gonna give you an internet.
Here. Can you...
Do you want the file? The USB. Mr. Club.
This is the presentation. You can download it.
As a PowerPoint.
Yes, it is a PowerPoint originally, but it's on the cloud. And then I don't know why. gonna give you the Let me try to. The pen drive, yes.
Double check one mic here. One. Check.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Are you able to hear me? We will start already. Nasa, you can take your seat. We have one speaker who is joining online, I think. If you have someone called Poncelet, please let them in. Otherwise, thank you very much for making time for this session. My name is Peace Oliver Muge, and I work for the Association for Progressive Communications as the Africa Regional Strategy Lead, and I am also a MAG member, outgoing MAG member. I'm very privileged to moderate this session, and I would. Is there any interruption in the audio? Oh, it's okay. Okay, so I will just briefly introduce the session to you, and so this session is a NRL collaborative session. It's on tackling disinformation in electoral contexts. Channel 4, please. We on channel 4. Is everyone there? Channel 4, yes. Channel 4, if you have just gotten in, please get yourself the gadget. And so yes, I just say that this session is tackling disinformation in the electoral context, and as you are all aware that this year has been called the year of elections. We've had several countries going through elections, and we know that during elections human rights is at stake, and we've had growing issues of disinformation during elections, and these are issues that put human rights at stake, democracy at stake. So this is a very important and crucial discussions to have, and so we are very happy to have you join here. We have distinguished panelists that you're seeing here. We should have one panelist joining online. And so this session will discuss a couple of issues. We'll discuss the role of different stakeholders, the role of social media. We will discuss the norms, the principles, the frameworks, the standards, some of the ways that we can take to counter disinformation, And we will be sharing different contexts when it comes to disinformation. And I see the room is quite diverse, so I expect that we will have a wealth of discussions. And I want to just mention that we have an online moderator who is here in the room, Emmanuel. We have rapporteurs who will be supporting us. We have Michelle from Zambia. We have Umut, who will also support us with rapporteuring. And also big thanks to the organizers who are in the room, and some might not be here, who are the Asia Pacific Youth IGF, the Bangladesh, the Benin IGF, the Caribbean IGF, the Colombia, Eurodic, Gambia, and several others, South Sudan. So I will not mention them all because we lost a little bit of time at the beginning. And I will come already to say that the panelists who are here, one who might join, we have Aisha, who will introduce herself later very well. We have Giuliano, you're most welcome. We have Nazar, who is here, and Poncelet, whom I just mentioned, that will join, and Giovanni. Thank you very much for making time. And so I think that we will already start our conversation. I am keeping fingers crossed that we don't have any technical glitches, and please just give me a note if you can't hear me or you're having trouble. And if anyone walks in and sits near you, let them know we are on channel 4. And the tech, please let people know that we're on channel 4. So since Poncelet is not on yet, I will come to you, Giovanni, and to open our discussions. And the question to you is, how have existing regulations addressed disinformation during elections? What are the practices, that balances combating false information with protecting freedom of expression? Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's on. Now it works. Okay, thank you for this question. Good afternoon. And I will answer by making reference to what I know more, which is the European Union case, which is peculiar in many ways. First of all, the European Union is not the place where the majority of very large online platforms are based, which is clearly the US. But the EU has at the same time always taken a very proactive approach when it comes to regulation. A common say in this area is that the US innovates while the EU regulates. Secondly, 2024 was the year when about a dozen European states went to the polls for a variety of national elections, from Spain to Finland and from Greece to France, but also when a European-wide common election, so to say, took place for renewing the European Parliament, the only elective body of the European Union, only directly elected body of the European Union. Thirdly, in 2024, new important EU regulations like the Digital Services Act, DSA, and Digital Markets Act, DMA, were not yet fully in force, because even if they have been approved by the relevant institutions, the process of implementing them is still ongoing. So they were not able to impact the electoral processes that took place this year. So how did the EU address the issue of disinformation in the crucial electoral year 2024? The main tool was the strengthened code of practice on disinformation, which was promoted by the European Union. The code was presented in June 2022, and it is a voluntary and co-regulatory instrument developed and signed by 34 signatories at the time of the adoption. Who are the signatories? Players from the advertising ecosystem, advertisers, ad tech companies, fact checkers, many but not all very large online platforms, civil society and third-party organizations. few names: Meta, Microsoft, Adobe, Avast, the European Fact-Checking Standards Network, the European Association of Communication Agency, Reporters Without Borders, World Federation of Advertisers, TikTok, Twitch, and Vimeo. So all these signatories agreed to establish a permanent task force with the idea of ensuring that the code adapts and evolves in view of technological, legislative, societal, and market developments. The task force is a rare place where representatives from the different stakeholders have a place to exchange information, require specific action, and discuss the best way ahead. The code, therefore, is the key instrument of the European Union's policy against disinformation, and its two key characteristics are to be a voluntary and co-regulatory instrument. So, coming back to your question, the second half of it is how do you balance that with protecting freedom of information? And the European way, so to say, is to have all the relevant stakeholders around the same table and do not to impose any kind of direct intervention from the authorities on the specific content, but more to have a forum where, I don't know, like potentially damaging cases or potential threats or things that need to be looked after are discussed, and then the platforms decide to take action or not. I'll give you a very practical example to conclude. The recent elections in Romania that took place a few days ago made the headlines in Europe and beyond because under the strong suspicion of foreign interference, they were annulled by the Romanian Constitutional Court, and the first round of the elections has to be redone. So during this process, basically all the stakeholders that were involved in the code decided to set up a rapid response system. What that meant was that there was a mechanism through which all the, like a fact checker or a civil society organization could say, look, in our day-to-day work, we noticed that this particular suspicion activities happened in this particular social network platform. So now it's up to you, my dear social network platform, to check if that this particular phenomenon violates the terms of use. So as you can see, there is no direct intervention or no regulation or law by which you have to do something yet, but there is this co-regulatory and collective effort to work together as stakeholders involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giovanni, for those very informative regulations that you mentioned and the collective actions that you're taking. I think it's very key to have these frameworks in place when we talk about disinformation. We will park it there. I've been told that we have Poncelet in the room, and I would like us to hear from Poncelet. As we all know, sometimes tech can be difficult, so it would be nice to hear from Poncelet. But also I wonder why we don't have Poncelet on the screen. Tech, if you could let us have Poncelet. And Poncelet, if you can hear us, could you please just say something? Poncelet, are you able to hear us? No. Okay. I think our online moderator is trying to sort out that. And then I will come to you, Aisha. We've had what Giovanni... Poncelet, can you just open your mic and say something?
Yes, thank you very much. Peace. I'm here, sorry. I was waiting to be granted access. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And are you able to speak? We could either hear from you or listen to Aisha.
Yes.
Okay.
You can definitely hear from me, and
Okay.
Thank you all. And one of the most
Poncelet, so this is the question that I would like you to take. Share with us what the role, the role that traditional media plays and social media in election, during elections, and how this is effective, and how regulations are being used to address these issues of disinformation.
I think speaking from a sub-Saharan point of view, you will notice that the role of social media in terms of disinformation and even misinformation is very important. We have to observe, we have to also know that why has this become very important? Most young people, most political parties, most lobbyists, what they use all over the world today to disseminate information has been through social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's TikTok, whether it's X. They have used all this to disseminate information, and most people don't naturally use mainstream media. They use social media as a way in which they get information. And one way, in a good example, we can use to combat this is making sure that within countries we have what I would call fact-checking websites, like what we did in the Gambia. Coming into our last presidential elections, we worked with the Gambian Press Union to set up what I would call a fact-checking website that was supported by UNESCO. So UNESCO has always been a good agency in supporting a number of countries to setting up fact-checking websites. And it's important that you have to have a bottom-top approach in training journalists at grassroots level, especially journalists working at community level using community radio, and how they can work with various fact-checking websites to be able to do this. Unfortunately, I don't know why my camera is not coming on. It's showing here, but this is the little intervention I'll make for now, and I'll take any other question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Poncelet, for your intervention and sharing. Like Giovanni also talked about the fact-checking, how that is important, amid election times and when there are widespread disinformation. And also you mentioned how social media is an important tool, that people use to access information, and also it's the same tool that is used to spread disinformation. I will still park that, we will park at that, and I would like to hear, yes, we can now see you in the room, Poncelet. So Aisha, I will come to you. How can tailored programs, initiatives and overall good values help people identify misinformation, engage diverse communities, and ensure there is electoral integrity?
Test. Hello, everyone. Great to be here and coming very far from the Maldives. And this is an interesting topic because I come from an organization called Women Tech Maldives, where we initially started to support women and girls. And then we realized when we need to talk about safety. And when you talk about safety, you have to talk about everyone. That is where actually our work began on this space, disinformation. Then we had the opportunity to actually communicate with a lot of organizations. And one of the area that we work is on identifying disinformation and doing media analysis. Okay, coming to the election. One of the interesting thing that highlighted was the last presidential election in the Maldives. Traditionally, it has been, we had several election observers group. There was nothing like disinformation in most of the reports, but this time it was quite a bit different, because we saw that major percentage of the disinformation came from the online media, and then very few were from the traditional media. So we know that this shift is happening. In few years' time, we don't see much in the traditional media. It goes through the social media. Okay, then you mentioned about what are the initiatives. So when you talk about the initiatives, I know that there are a lot of tools available. And can it really fit all the countries? No. It has to be designed in a way that it fits the cultural norms, and others. Yeah.
We're having a cut in the. I think it's a microphone issue.
Okay, sorry about that. I hope you've heard some of the my words. Okay. All right. So when we talk about misinformation, and what comes to my mind is like, what are the ways that we can really tackle it? So right now we are coming up with a lot of tools actually to debunk the disinformation and everything that you see. But I would like to see a place where that we actually build a culture where we promote information integrity across everyone. And when we especially talk about election, then everyone says it's the media. It's the media spreading the information. But yes, of course, some part is the media, but it is the citizen who believe in it. If they are not equipped in ways with knowledge and tools on how they can really identify them, and then that means that's where we fail. Because it's not only the election, it's everywhere. The information integrity is an important factor to consider. And we as an organization, we have conducted several sessions with the political parties as well, and with the parliamentarians as well. How can they actually support these kind of processes within the communities? Because in Maldives, we have remote islands as well. Then the councillors and the parliamentarians, they do really travel across. And then that's the way that we can actually connect with the communities and run more programs. But in light of this, I also want to highlight there are two interesting guides from NDI. NDI has a very interesting guide to promote information integrity. And this guide has a lot of tools, like the tools they have supported to develop fact-checking and other frameworks as well. Another one I would also like to highlight is UNDP's Strategic Guidance Information Integrity Framework. They have one as well. And when we go back and talk about these kind of initiatives that both UNDP and NDI has supported, I would like to highlight one of the initiatives that NDI took. One is in Georgia. They partnered with local organization to address the spread of misinformation during elections. And the impact, the effort empowered citizens to make informed decisions and reduced the effectiveness of misinformation aimed at influencing public opinion and vote behavior. So we know that these kind of interventions actually help. So one is definitely going for fact-checking tools and empowering citizens to make the right choices, and also involving the media and the political parties itself. And on another note, I would also like to highlight that in Maldives, we are currently working to develop with the community to develop a fact-checking system, so that hopefully this will be a way that smaller countries like us, where we have very few population and we speak one language. So most of the time what happens is when this kind of information is posted online in our native language, the algorithms cannot pick it up. So that is challenging for us. I hope that all these platforms, they do consider us, because we also need to exist. And we need that support from everyone. And at the national level, we are doing our work, but it is labor intensive. So that support is required. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Aisha, for pointing out on those and the gaps and the need for capacity building, and also empowering, the citizens when we talk about issues of countering disinformation. And we are in a multi-stakeholder space, and I think it would be nice to talk about that a little bit. And I would come to you, Giuliano, and my question to you is that how can multi-stakeholder partnerships and public-private collaborations improve efforts to combat election disinformation and expand media literacy programs to reach all parts of the society?
Thank you so much. Well, I decided to bring a reflection here based on fiction. In Orwell's novel 1984, he states, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." Well, Orwell builds a dystopian reality where a state institution, the records department, revises every single piece of stored information and rewrites it, if necessary, to conform to the party's vision. He reminds us of the sets of institutions, disciplines, and propositions built throughout human history to organize discourse. More importantly, he sheds light on the social disputes to control and impose discourse as a strategy for maintaining or gaining power. Well, at this point, we must recognize that the internet has brought the challenge of organizing speech to an entirely new level. This is a challenge for society as a whole. In this sense, I understand that multi-stakeholder spaces are especially important to foster social arrangements capable of dismantling a highly developed industry, the disinformation industry. At CGI, we have been working on the production of principles and guidelines to combat disinformation. And I guess what happened in 2018 in England was like a trigger to promote debate at international level on disinformation. Despite that, in 2017, the United Nations signs a declaration on freedom of expression, fake news and disinformation. In the same year, European Union sponsored a first major study on disinformation, information disorder, towards an interdisciplinary framework to research and policy making. 1 year after that, 2018, the European Union creates the high-level group on fake news and disinformation online to produce one important first report called a multidimensional approach to disinformation. This is kind of important. I ask you please to go to the next slide, because it is in 2018 that the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee created the Internet and Democracy Working Group, which produced a first publication, the Fake News and Elections Guidebook for Internet users. The guide outlined the general problem and present concepts, discusses risks, and offer guidelines to prevent the distribution of disinformation. But in 2018, we have the election of Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil. And the working group carries on working on the challenges imposed by disinformation and produces the report on disinformation and democracy, discussing international initiatives to combat disinformation industry and proposing 15 directives to address the phenomenon while promoting what we now call information integrity. In 2021, the working group presented another work which is the contributions to combating disinformation on the internet during electoral periods, looking specifically to electoral periods. Additionally, CGI.br participates in the Electoral Supreme Court Task Force to combat disinformation. And all this work that that you can see here at the presentation are available on the internet. And despite it is in Portuguese, we nowadays can easily translate a PDF for any language through internet applications. And also, if any country or working group is interested, we could translate this work. But we should consider that they try to address a specific reality, which is what happens in Brazil. Well, still, my feeling is that we can do more. We should ask ourselves about the impact of the work carried out in multi-stakeholder spaces. This includes, obviously, IGF, to combat disinformation. And I believe we may find opportunities to improve processes and foster intersectional collaboration to better integrate these different fora. We carry out every year a lot of work. Lots of people goes to the IGF, and then this is time for us to recognize that we have to think of how to organize this for us, considering that in some measure we fail as society to combat disinformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julio, for that. And I think you share the need for research, and harmonizing strategies and efforts and embracing collaborations. We are about to open up to hear from you, but let's just hear from Nazar. And Nazar, we would just like to hear from you, what should digital platforms and tech companies, what role, should they play in reducing disinformation during elections, and how can regulations ensure that they are held accountable? Thank you.
Thank you for posing this question. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much for organizing this. And my name is Dr. Naza Nicholas Kirama from Tanzania. And before I answer that question, I would like to take us to a little background in terms of why is it we are discussing about misinformation in the electoral context. It is because the elections have an enormous power either to put people in power or to disempower candidates. So it is a very fertile ground where the misinformation, disinformation, fake news is attracted. It is like a sort of space where a lot of activities happens in a very short period of time during the campaign. if you look, for example, the elections that we had in the United States this year, there was a lot of misinformation, disinformation, fake news. And I wouldn't want to comment much on that, but I think this led to one of the candidates being sort of, the campaign was sunk because of misinformation. If I were to look at what the tech companies and platforms need to actually do to mitigate the situation, to ensure that the electoral processes are, free of all these bugs in terms of disinformation and misinformation, fake news. There are several areas that the platforms and the tech companies need to either invest or do more. Number one is actually being proactive in terms of content moderation. They need to implement advanced algorithms that will actually flag and detect, flag, and any misleading information, so that people who are going to elect a candidate can understand that this information is the right kind of information from the campaign, or from which is being put out there. And before I proceed, I would like to say that the tech companies and platforms have sort of, in terms of the electoral processes, they have become sort of electoral commissions without regulation and without anybody to sort of answer to, because they are out there. The campaigns or the countries that are being affected have actually little or nothing to be able to make the platforms and the tech companies be answerable for the content that are being posted by either the proxies of the campaigns, or the bad actors for a certain campaign. So I think the regulation in terms of what they do is very important. Number two is transparency in algorithm policies. These tech companies and platforms, they need to be transparent in the algorithm that they use, so that that information is clear and out there, and make sure that the sort of misinformation and other content is put away for the candidates, for example. Number three is collaboration with fact checkers. They need to collaborate with fact checkers. The platform should collaborate with independent fact checking organizations to verify accuracy of content and label or demote false information. This partnership ensures objectivity and credibility. So the tech platform, because they have the ability to make things go viral. They have the ability to reach thousands and millions of people around the world and within the country. It is important through the transparency with the partnership for collaboration with the fact checkers, will be able to undo all these defects and fake news and disinformation, and make sure that the right kind of candidate, the right kind of information for a candidate is being put out there. So that is very critical. Number four is about having public awareness campaigns that are within the platform themselves, within the country, and the actors, the politicians, the regular consumer on the tech and media platforms, awareness is very key. Even the ordinary, citizens need to know, when should I believe this information is true about a certain candidate, for example. So that is very important. There has to be some kind of real-time safeguards during the electoral periods. For the tech platforms, they have to collaborate with, even with the electoral commissions, to ensure that these kind of safeguards are out there, and they are put up, and make sure the information that is there is key. Regulatory measures to ensure accountability. The platforms and tech companies have got to be accountable also for the content that is posted on their platforms online. This is because sometimes the tech companies and platforms tend to hide behind the veil of freedom of expression and all this, that. But now the freedom of expression does not exclude them from the accountability. They have to be accountable in some ways for the content that is posted and which is false. So I think that is very key in terms of making sure defects and misinformation, disinformation is rooted out of electoral processes, and in the end, the citizens, enjoy the right of electing the right kind of candidates, not because of the misinformation or the information from the bad actors against the candidate, but because of the actual policies that that candidate put out there for the common common or ordinary citizens to be able to consume. Because this misinformation, disinformation, fake news and deepfakes have the ability to actually disenfranchise citizens of a particular country. Because now the tech platforms, if are not accountable for the content, that means they can be able to elect a president of a country, a member of parliament of a certain country, a judge, for example. In US, I know judges in United States of America, they get voted for in the office. So that's why I said at the beginning that these tech platforms, tech companies and media platforms are electoral commissions without regulation, without guardrails for them to be able to ensure that the content that is delivered on their platforms resonates with what is actually happening on the ground. With that, I thank you for this.
Thank you very much, Naza, for your input and highlighting, some of the issues that are happening, and also steps that needs to be taken by platform owners and also other stakeholders. For instance, valuing and focusing on accountability, transparency, fact-checking, awareness creation. And I must say that as someone that works in the African region, I've followed elections that were happening across Africa. We had over 18 countries going through elections, and disinformation was such a big threat to human rights. And we had, undermining of freedom of expression, civic engagement, having people decide, like NASA just mentioned, people decide on rumors, on fake news. So I think that's a very important thing. And also access to information. We use digital platform a lot to access information, and these were things that are very much undermined during elections. So we will open up a bit. Do we have anyone in online? And if you have a question here, you can already, yes, 1, 2, 3, but let's just check if anybody online Is there anyone? Okay, so you go first, and then. Oh yes, you need a mic and.
Thank you so much. I have a question for Giovanni. You spoke about a platform, an inclusive platform, that is more or less saying if the misinformation, disinformation impacted the result of election. Are their conclusions binding for the decision makers? Because decision makers may be interested by the election. They may be candidate. The government, the sitting government may be also candidate for the new term. So is this platform, the conclusion of this platform, binding for the decision makers?
Thank you. Let's take the three questions and then the fourth one here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nana. So I listened, and there's a lot of conversation around the right candidate, and that sounds like bias towards a particular set of values, because I have observed elections for at least the past 15 years, and I've also worked on disinformation and misinformation for a long time. And the fact remains that in every election, all parties contribute to misinformation. Our personal biases might tend to show us more from one side. I say our personal biases because even online, the clicks, the people we follow helps tell our algorithms what to bring to our feed. So I'm wondering if we're looking at it objectively. Then secondly, around platform accountability, I agree with you. Platforms should be held accountable, but I'm concerned for what? We have to be very clear what we're asking platforms to be held accountable for. If we decide to start holding platforms accountable for all forms of fake news posted on the platform, it's a roundabout way to stifle free speech. I say this because a platform might have the ability to pull down news that has been verified by fact checkers as fake news. But if there's no means of verifying it, it won't, because of my opinion, pull it down. Do you see my point? Recently, X, formerly Twitter, introduced community notes. And anyone who has community note access will know that people even misuse it, and this is supposed to be the court of public opinion. We have to be very careful. I say this because as a Nigerian, different African governments have found ways of trying to regulate and hyper-regulate social media. When we open a door, we have to be very direct to where that door is pointed to, so that we don't open a Pandora's box and it will be very difficult to shut it down. And I agree with you around advanced algorithm to detect and flag any misinformation. But it's also very, very important that for all algorithms, there is explainability because of cultural context. There are words that when I say it, it means something else than when maybe someone who's sitting in Italy says it. I can tell someone, oh, you're so silly, you're so foolish, and it's banter, like we call it. But those words form abuse and insult in a different language. So algorithms, while advanced, may not be the best people, or the best tools rather, not people, to flag misinformation. I do 100% agree with working and collaborating with fact checkers, because it's very important that we have the human in the loop, the persons who work on this issue. So yeah, this is my contribution. Just saying we should be a little bit more circumspect in some of the things that we're proposing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There was another hand last, and then we come to you.
Yeah, okay. So thank you so much. My name is Peter King for the records from Liberia, IGF. And two interventions I would like to push across. Just what the other colleague just said, platform regulation. I can attest to that. Like platform like in Meta, I work with them on something similar to that based on election content that is more of misinformation or disinformation. So in terms of electoral content, they are doing something in terms of regulating content that when reported that is not been fact checked, they pull it down based on the fact that yes, this is someone locally that is flagging this particular content that is not of truth. And then the other issue is in terms of electoral context with respect to disinformation, I think there is a need for consistent and sustainable national civic education, because basically you tell your local story better than anybody, and constantly in a sustainable education nationally will help to shift misinformation or disinformation in the electoral context. These are my two interventions, please.
Thank you. So there's a hand behind. Since the mic is close by, let him take it there, and then you have it last. Thank you for understanding.
Thank you for this. Can I move? Can I go on? Panelist?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. I'm Kosi. I'm a student from Benin. From my understanding, it's not normal to say platform will be responsible for my information I put online. If I put something online, I'm supposed to be response on that. I'm supposed to respond on that. Platform can anytime, if government requests information, platform can share my name and the information I share on each platform. It's very important for everybody to know that. Because information is freedom. I know information I'm sharing is to do something. It's for informate. But it's for destruction, I'm supposed to respond on it also. That is very important to do. But all the platforms we have now are doing their own regulation process. We will let them do it better. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tim. Thank you for giving me a possibility to talk. You know, I'll tell you my favorite joke. What's the difference between conspiracy theory and truth? 6 months. Remember COVID times. How much we have heard about COVID-19 and how much of that revealed to be not factually correct or even incorrect, and turned out something what we called conspiracy theories in before turned out to be truth. And here I want to highlight the fact that we should be especially very precise on what we mark disinformation or misinformation or even fakes, especially when we are talking about elections, because as it was mentioned in before very correctly, elections are not about like fact-checking. They're about like a political battle and political bias where all the parties, directly or indirectly, basically fueling the misinformation narratives in the media landscape just to win. And sometimes they are supported by like an establishment and authorities in power because they just want to sit this chair another 4 years. It's obvious. So I think we should be very precise here, and what to tell you more about this. Say, we have established it like a fact-checking association here in Russia, not here, there in Russia, with the intent to share all the possible experience we have for fighting fakes and disinformation, and moreover to share our tools and platform absolutely free on absolutely open basis. There is even a tool to detect deep fakes, so we basically upload a video and it highlights a special, it runs up a special scene in this video saying that this possibility of this like some face of being deep faked is like 70% or 80 or 97, whatever. So I advise everybody to be especially very precise of what we label fake or not, understanding that political fakes and electoral fakes are most of the time it's a battle of trying to somebody get some more power, not to get to some truth point. And remember lessons of COVID-19, where lots of conspiracy theories and even like lines for which people were persecuted and sometimes fined or even jailed turned out to be absolute truth. Thank you.
Thank you. We can. So let's give the panelists time, and Giovanni will come to you first.
Thank you. So I'll answer first of all to the question from the gentleman in the second row. So talking again about how the thing was framed in Europe, I have to be very clear that the occasion when a candidate said something that is false is not something that was addressed by that is addressed by the task force. Absolutely not. Neither the task force nor the code of practice on disinformation nor the European Digital Media Observatory, of which I'm a member, none of these entities and in no way the general way in which the thing is framed in Europe, they have any interest in framing the political debate or in labeling political expression in any sense. So all the candidates in Europe can say basically whatever they want, and there will not be any direct intervention that is established by this framework. The things that the code and all the other stakeholders are involved in are things like transparency in funding for political advertising, for example, or flagging cases of possible inauthentic coordinated behavior. So, for example, a civil society organization or a fact-checking organization can bring to the table something that they've noticed as, I don't know, a bot campaign. They think it's a bot campaign, or they think there is a specific account that is particularly active in spreading demonstrably false news. And then there is no coercive way to oblige the platforms to do anything, but it's up to the platforms to decide if that specific campaign, that specific instance, that specific behavior violates their terms of use. So this is how things currently stand at the European level. Second thing that I wanted to mention is a thought about how countries should be regulating social media. My personal opinion, and probably is not that of all the members of the panel or all the people in the room, is that countries should stay as far away as possible from directly regulating through law anything similar to spreading false content on the internet per se, because in any way saying something that is false is punishable by law, with some exceptions like libel or slander, whatever. But generally speaking, freedom of expression has to be the most important value that is. At the same time, though, I wanted to point out that basically no human platform or way of communication is completely unfiltered, or if they are, doesn't turn very soon into something that nobody wants to be, sane of mind want to be in. Of course, we currently, in all the countries that I know of, put strong regulations in some parts of. So unabated free speech doesn't exist. So, in terms of what we should do when it comes to disinformation, my personal idea is that something like labeling is probably the best thing to do. So, fact-checking, in my opinion, is not... Thank you. You're very kind, helping me out with this. Fact-checking, in my opinion, is not kind of giving out like cards, like who's saying the truth and who's saying what's false, but is more like providing contextual information to the user and like saying, okay, this is what's out there. You can say that we never went to the moon, that's fine, but keep in mind that according to all this list of reputable sources, this is actually doesn't appear to be what really happened. Then it's up to you to make up your mind, to evaluate if those sources are fine. Okay, but still, I think that providing more information is always better than providing no information. So this is just my personal opinion. And with that, I shut up.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. Juliana, you want to take some questions? Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Well, I was trying to make a point on what are we dealing with here and what our colleague has said has everything to do with the we have a huge dispute of power. Disinformation has everything to do with power. Who have power, who wants to maintain power, and those who wants to gain power. Then I would like to address a few points that were mentioned here in the panel. First is I couldn't say that there is no bias in platform models, business models, considering who has been in the last 10 years gaining power around the world. So in Brazil, in Europe, in the United States, in many other countries in the world, we can see the extreme right groups gaining power in Congress, in media. I mean, it's not just political power, it's communication power. Then I guess that we have a relation between the kind of business model that are established in digital platforms and the advancement of some political views. There is bias. It's biased, and we cannot just imagine that there is no bias. This is important because we can try to address or try to investigate where this money that finances the industry of disinformation is coming from. And this is very important. Follow the money is one of the things that we have to do. We cannot shut blind eye on who is financing disinformation. Second point is I wouldn't concern with the excess of regulation at this time, because any regulation is so difficult to get. I mean, despite that Europe has done a great job on DMA and DSA recently, even in European countries, the challenge to produce any regulation is still great. And in Brazil, we have no regulation, no platform regulation at all. And this is a fight that we are trying to face, and it's very hard. Of course, that we should consider that regulation for the digital era should be based on principles, and I would like to bring another principles. I like very much the idea of trusted flaggers that my colleague here has brought, but there is a principle which lies behind the European regulation, which is systemic risk. This is very very powerful because it is difficult to establish specific kinds of content to believe that we can through algorithms find what is wrong and what is right, or what is true and what is conspiracy theory. We will not do this, but we can hold companies accountable for the systemic risks they are putting in place in society. This is I believe that we can find a fair equilibrium to regulate content moderation through this principle of systemic risks. And there is a name for this in Portuguese. I'm trying to remind what's the name, and the name that this principle is been used in some regulation, but I forgot now. But it's something like duty of care or something like this, and this is quite important. Yes, I would say. And finally, to finish, I would like to promote this consultation that we have done in Brazil, and it's a consultation on digital platform regulation, and we established 3 pillars for regulate digital platforms. The first is disputability as a concept of economic theory. We cannot sort out these information problems while we still have impact from companies who concentrate so much market share in society, like Instagram and WhatsApp, and so we have to face the challenge of building disputability. The second one is digital sovereignty. We have to look to infrastructure. There is a concept of digital public infrastructure, which has gaining a hype right now, but yet it's important to understand if infrastructures, despite they are private or public, they are serve the public interests or business interests, in terms that some infrastructure are serving business interests over public interests. Then we should regulate this infrastructure despite they are private. And to finish, we have to regulate content moderation, and I guess this idea of systemic risk is a good idea for we start discussing what kind of regulation we want in different countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Olen. Let me just check if Ponslet wants to intervene. Is Ponslet still online? Ponslet, if you can hear me, do you have any comments or to the questions that we...
Yes, thank you very much. I think overall we have to realize that any disinformation in any electoral context impacts the common man, those at grassroots level. So whether it's platforms, whether we use fact-checking sites, the most important thing is advocacy for communities to know how misinformation can affect and disinformation can affect their lives. And the only way to do it is empowering people, especially those who communities relate with at their grassroots level. And those people are usually at community radios, so the power of community radios is still very important. People will always listen to what they hear from their own community, and we have to be able to have avenues to empower those people and get all stakeholders involved. Social media has been a game changer, so I remember way back in 2006 when they said Time Magazine voted Person of the Year as you. If you look at it today, it's very relevant. Person of the Year is still you, because the amount of information online and disinformation has really contributed to a lot of very unfortunate things in the world, especially in electoral processes. So let us see how I don't have any one cap fit all, but within our own context, I know the main focus should be addressing people at the grassroots level. Let them be more informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Pons. Yes, Naza, you can go on.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to respond a little bit about the right kind of candidate. She was talking about the right kind of candidate. I was contributing that from the perspective of the equal level of information, for example, about a candidate. It's not the right candidate, the right candidate that is ideal for that post. I meant that when one candidate, for example, is there is a mis or disinformation against another candidate, the chances are that the two candidates, one of them will be disenfranchised in terms of the information, the right kind of information as of that time. So I didn't mean that having the right candidate, the ideal candidate for that post. I wanted to clarify that. And one of the things that we have to look at is that regulations have been there since the world came into the being, and I cannot imagine a space where there is no regulation at all. There has to be some form of regulation. What we should be against is that having over-regulation in terms of whatever that we are doing. For example, if you do over-regulation in terms of people becoming innovative or certain innovations, that means you will stifle competition, and second, you will stifle growth of that particular space. So I think regulation, transparency, having people being accountable, it will make the space a level playing field where everybody can be able to interact and have the right, for example, to have your content read, and also have the right for not anybody to stumble on your feet, on your toes. I think that is what we are looking at. We're not looking at making sure that for example, all these tech companies or platforms they are banned because of the content that is posted by the end users. So I think there has to be some kind of regulation, because just imagine if I walk into this room naked, there's no regulation that has been written on the door that you can't walk here naked. But if I walk here naked, people will go like, So I think we have to have some form of regulation. And these regulations have got to be facilitative regulations. They have to facilitate the tech companies as well as the platforms do their stuff. People read the stuff. But now when they cross the line, the red line of allowing their platform to be used, especially for disinformation, because the disinformation is intentional, unlike, for example, the misinformation. Disinformation is intentional. I create a content and disseminate it for me to disparage, for example, your personality. If you are a candidate, I say this guy is a rapist, for example, but the guy is not a rapist. If that content, continue to be on the platform, the impact on the end users will decimate that particular candidate. So I think there has to be, in my opinion, as a speaker, I think there has to be some kind of regulation, accountability, and collaboration is very key. Engaging the fact checkers to ensure that the information that is being put out there by maybe third parties is the correct kind of information about a particular candidate. So I think the awareness, collaboration is very key in terms of where we are going in the future. That will be my 50 cents contribution.
Yes, Aisha, you can go.
Hello. This has become a very, very interesting discussion now. Yeah. Is for me, I don't really believe that we should actually try and make the platforms accountable on the content actually uploaded by someone else. When we talk about regulation, we might be saying that this might be a simple thing, but we know that how humans and a lot of people with power, they try to influence. So that's the reason I don't believe that we should try and force maybe the platforms to remove content. And because all these platforms you see, it's run by community guidelines. It's available and it's visible for everyone. And I believe with that, it is more towards society's role in helping debunk this information through these kind of awareness campaigns that we are talking about. Because we cannot let just the platforms decide whether this is true or not, especially when they don't have enough information. So that is my take on that. And another point is we have talked a lot about the regulation and then maybe holding the platforms accountable. But we have a bigger work to do. That is, as some of the members from audience mentioned about the civic education, especially on information integrity through information literacy programs. Because this doesn't only impact the elections. It's a general thing that we need to identify, like what is misinformation and disinformation, and how do you really understand the deep fakes and all. So that is what I believe that we should be focusing on, and less influence on the platforms. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've had a very good conversation. Aisha is starting something, but we can't start opening it up. Aisha says that she does not believe that we should emphasize on content moderation, because why should they moderate something they didn't put there? I don't know what you think. We have only 10 minutes. We can't go into this conversation. Yes, it's a debate for another day, but otherwise I think I have had fun moderating this session. And just to before I kind of sum up some of the things that have come up, I want to just give you just 1 minute each. If you want to just say your parting shot, it would be great. We can start from Aisha and just take it very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. This is an interesting discussion, and like coming from a very small population and then being able to be here and talk about some of the challenges that we have. I hope that some of you here do consider us when you design some of your tools and other interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My parting shot will be that we need to direct more efforts in terms of collaborations, ensuring that nobody out there, be it a candidate or the ordinary citizen, become impacted by the disinformation, whether we deploy facilitative regulation, or we bring debate in terms of dialogue with the platforms and tech companies on how they can root out the scourge of disinformation. I think that is important for all of us. I think the awareness, making sure we mitigate from the end user perspective is very key as we move forward. And I wish you all the good luck in terms of where you are going. I hope you will embrace awareness and fact checking, platform accountability, and facilitative regulation. Thank you.
Well, I from a personal point of view, I'm really worried about the way things are going. I don't know. I think information integrity and disinformation is at the base of questions that we have to sort out, and we can't. Like, it's not only sustainability, environmental questions.
The online people cannot hear.
Yes, just to finish, but what I see is a kind of cynical agreement over general values like privacy and freedom of expression that prevent us to debate the problems some actors are posing to society. So we have to stop this, because I'm attending IGF for more than 10 years and I can't stand it to hear, oh, let's prevent to attack privacy, and this has become, seriously, my friends, this has become sort of ridiculous. So, or we start to face the problems and tell each other what we have to sort out, or seriously, I don't know if we can give up of building society. Then I would like to invite, the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee has a booth camp here, and we have some of the hard copies of the work that we have done on consultation of digital platform regulation. We have a kind of a scene in Brazil. I'm giving to you if you're interested. A scenario in Brazil of the main disputes. This is what we need to do, to bring up what are the disputes are in place, and try to sort out these problems. I'm sorry for this final speech, but I'm really concerned. Thank you.
So my final thought is that I do think that there is a strong regional and national specificity to these problems. I mean, the issue of disinformation is absolutely not the same also inside Europe. The problems that I can observe in my country as an Italian are probably completely different from what a Norwegian is seeing. Well, they are outside the European Union, but let's say a Scandinavian country, or from Eastern Europe. What happens in each of these regions is very specific, and I'm not even thinking about what's happening in the Maldives or in Tanzania or in Brazil. So one thing that I take away from this session is how the issue of disinformation can become kind of an academic and very theoretical stuff from some perspectives, and one of the most pressing and urgent issues from another perspective in another area of the world. So there have been cases in the past few years when disinformation has had such a concrete impact as to harm people and to be uh, really a problem for the whole of society. And I do think that one of the most difficult things is to agree on some common ground at the global level. It will probably, I'm sorry about that, but it will probably need much more listening, much more discussing, and I think it's great that a forum such as the IGF exists for have this kind of discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll go right away to you, Pons. Can you hear us? Ponslet, would you like to give us your parting shot in just 1 minute? No? Okay. Okay, we just have 2 minutes, and usually I have a thing of not going beyond time, so I don't want us to push this further. Thank you very much to the panelists, and also to you for your comments and input to this discussion. I think it was great. I think some of the things we talk about is definitely public awareness, capacity building, collaborations and collaboration synergies, harmonizing, our efforts, and also acknowledging the different contexts that we have, regulations, multi-stakeholder approach, and, encouraging and promoting fact-checking. I think we had a great session, and thank you all. Have a good evening and the rest of the IGF.
Bye.